Hello, I'm Kats, and welcome to today's video. So as the title and thumbnail suggest, we have hit another milestone on my account. We have officially achieved or obtained 200 legendaries on my account, and that does include duplicates, so they're not unique. That would be a little bit different. But nonetheless, yes, we have achieved 200 legendaries acquired on my account, and the 200th, which was kind of cool, was Lord Entertainer Fabian, the most recent Fusion champion. It's crazy to think about, but it's nearly been 2 years since we did the 100 legendary special, but that's just how long it takes to acquire a lot of these champions. So just like that time, we're going to go through a lot of cool statistics, at least I think they're cool statistics about where my champions are, how many of them are used, where do they come from, etc. How many duplicates do I have? Some fun information on that. And then of course the kind of utility metrics, how many of them are booked, how many of them are used, and stuff like that. So we'll dive into all of that in a second here. Unlike the last time, I do plan to go over the top 10 game changers since the first 100, and this is kind of like going off of memory as best of my ability to know that, you know, which champions didn't I have in the first video and whatnot. But I do have a pretty cool list, my top 10 game changers in the last 100 legendaries that I've gotten, and that's it was definitely hard to kind of put that list together. But I do want to start off by honorably mentioning Lord Entertainer Fabian himself, who is legendary number 200. I can't put him on the list only because I just got him. He's just been booked recently. I've been using him a little bit in live arena, but I haven't really played him enough to say that he's going to change my account. But I probably anticipate that is going to be the case. But with it being a few days after, it's hard to say that he's done anything just yet. So I do anticipate that he will do it in the future. But if you were curious, I do have him in 4-piece Supersonic and 4-piece Pinpoint. When I get to the ranking of the top 10 game changers, I will talk about why I like them, why I built them in whichever way they're built, and where they're used on my account. So first, let's dive into the nerd statistics. And of course, I have documented this in a spreadsheet. You guys know me by now. Or if you don't know me, then welcome to the channel. Hope you're enjoying the content. But I've expanded my spreadsheet, and basically this is just a catalog of every single legendary that I've acquired, non-void and void alike. Either, are they free or fusion? That, free fusion includes fusion champions, obviously, but it's all of the like Alice, Artax, and stuff like that are just kind of promotional champions and all that stuff. And then shard pools, of course, is champions acquired from shards. I did expand the duplicate columns to have a double, triple, quad, and quint. Spoiler alert, I've not obtained a quint yet, but I'm future-proofing because you never know. In the next 100, we'll see what happens. And then I also expanded the importance metrics here. So we still have the same columns of 6-starred, which of them are booked, how many of them are empowered, and then I have this breakdown here of where I have them located on my account. For those of you who don't know, I have my account arranged in a particular way, and so all of my core champions, that means I use them on a regular basis, either daily, weekly, or just more often than once a month, once every few months, etc. And so core champions are like dungeon teams, doom tower teams, hydra teams, chimera teams, clan boss teams, all that stuff that I use on a super regular basis. The vault is for the occasional champions. This is like faction wars, every so often whenever the keys come up, doom tower champions, curse city specific champions, stuff like that. And then the reserve vault is, of course, you can't have any gear on them. So these are all the champions that I just don't use anywhere at all in the game. So if we hop down to the bottom, we can take a look at all of these statistics here, starting off with one of the bigger questions, which is how many have I acquired from free sources, free/fusion sources, and how many are from shard pull. So you can see here, we're at a pretty nice about 60-40 split. So more of them, 60% of them are from shard pulls, which is to be expected. We have fusions at best once a month, and obviously I pull shards more often than once a month. Obviously part of fusions, but pogo events and guaranteed events and all those other things, there are other ways of acquiring champions. And so you'd expect that shard pulls will be the dominant force, but I think it's still impressive that still a good decent chunk of my account, even though they might not all be used necessarily, 40% of my account is just champions they've given out for free or they've offered up as part of fusions and or Titan events and stuff like that. So it's not all shard pulls, being a free-to-play player, but it's not all fusion champions either. There's a good healthy mix, about half and half, but skewed more towards the shard pulls. In terms of the duplicate statistics here, you can see that we have 31 pairs, so 31 sets of double legendary, double duplicates. I have 6 triplets, and then I have actually 1 quad, and that is Helior. If anyone was curious, somewhere in the list up here, but yep, I've managed to acquire 4 Heliors on my account. They are in alphabetical order. There we go. Yeah, 4 Heliors. That's the most I have on my account, and he's the closest, I guess, to being a quintuple set. But yeah, no quints just yet, but maybe Helior can be that one in the future. We'll see in the next 100 legendaries. As a quick aside, because it's kind of related to how many duplicate legendaries I do have, it will be good to mention that if you're curious about my faction guardian status in terms of the game itself, I'm still yet to have 10 out of 10 on any faction, and in fact there are still some factions that have 0 out of 10. Sylvan Watchers comes to mind for some reason, whatever it may be. I just don't have the luck with pulling Sylvan Watcher legendary specifically. But yeah, lowest is 0, the highest is tied between Lizardmen and Bannerlords for 8 out of 10. So still waiting for a magical 10 out of 10 for some faction in the game, and Ogre Tribes, I guess, is tied for 0 out of 10 as well. So even though I have a fair amount of duplicates, 31 pairs, not enough of them are co-located in one particular faction to grant me all of the, I guess, the 10 speed or whatever you get from the faction guardian. So that is still a work in progress, despite having played for over 4 years now. But yeah, that's just how the cookie crumbles in terms of the RNG of pulling duplicate champions. But nonetheless, you can see how that has manifested itself on my account. So continuing on in the spreadsheet, let's talk about some of the importance metrics. So how many of my legendaries are 6-starred? That means that they are probably actively being used somewhere, or they have a purpose or an intent in the game. And you can see, despite having 200 legendaries, I've only 6-starred just over half of them, 113, 56%. So majority of them are 6-starred, but a fair amount of them are not. They're still 50, basically relegated to the vault and not used at the moment. The next one I think is pretty interesting as well, because you might think it's a lot more, but I only have about 40% of all of my legendaries booked, fully booked, or partially booked. I definitely do a lot of partial booking in case the champion who's like a support, if the last 2 books or whatever are in damage boosting stats, or damage boosting on their abilities, I don't really care about that. I want them to have their cooldowns maxed or their debuff chance maxed and stuff like that. So I have a lot of fully booked champions, of course, because of bad RNG, and then I also have a lot of partially booked legendaries. But yeah, 40% of my legendaries are booked, so only about 80 of them. So definitely don't book all the legendaries that I use. A lot of them Faction Wars, Curse City specific champions, I don't book them. I do have a decent amount of legendary tomes left over, but I want to save them for champions I really want to use for a purpose, and they actually need their cooldowns for the success of the runs, or it's for the capabilities of the team. Empowering, as you might have guessed based on the fact that we don't have 10 out of 10 on any faction guardians, I've not empowered a single champion. The closest I am is probably going to be Rhodos, who is currently one of the triplets. I do have 3 Rhodoses, but since I don't have a maxed out faction guardian set, I don't want to sacrifice the stats for all the legendaries in the faction just to empower my Rhodos. That was one decision I made a few months ago when I pulled the 3rd Rhodos. And then when it comes to their importance relative to their location, you can see the breakdown here. So majority of my champions are actually, or majority of my legendaries specifically, are in the reserve vault. So I don't actually use most of the legendaries that I have. That might surprise some of you, but a lot of duplicates, they just don't really need to be built. They don't really need to do anything. And there are obviously a lot of bad champions in the game. There are some great ones, of course, and I have a fair amount of some of the good ones, but I don't have all the good ones, that's for damn sure. But there's a lot of them that just don't have a purpose in the game, and that's where they sit on my account. I put them in the reserve vault. If they have a purpose, it could be as simple as 1 stage in the Curse City. That is enough of a purpose for me to move them into the 6-star category. Then I'm happy to do that. They probably won't be booked if it's something that specific, but nonetheless, if they have no purpose in the game on my account, they don't need their gear, then they sit in the reserve vault. Then, as we talked about, the vault is more for those perennial type champions, Faction Wars, Doom Tower, Curse City, and so 25% of those are in, or of my legendaries are in the vault, just kind of used perennially. And then the core champions, you can see they're 64, is about 32%. So about a third of my legendaries are on my core teams, dungeon teams, Doom Tower, Hydra, Chimera, etc. So yeah, there you have it. That's the extent of the updated statistics here at 200 legendaries on my account. Were you surprised by any of these numbers in particular? Let me know that in the comment section down below. I do actually have the same exact spreadsheet for mythical champions as well, and I had planned to do this type of video when I hit 10 mythicals, which I have hit fairly recently, but I don't know. I'll let you guys decide. I'll put up a poll on my channel if you guys want me to deep dive that as well, just to see, how many of my mythicals are booked, how many of them are used, etc. like that, because obviously I do have a lot more than the average person. But let me know in the comment section down below of this video if you want to see that video, you want me to make that video, or just respond in the poll that I will post after this video goes live. So now let's talk about my top 10 game changers since the first 100, the second 100 legendaries on my account. And again, I'll go through why I like the champion, why I built them in the way that they're built, and where they're used actively on my account. And it should be by no surprise that all 10 of these champions are going to be core champions on my account. So starting off with number 10, there's no way I could leave her off the list because she was my most wanted void legendary, or non-void legendary, for the longest time, and that is of course Valkyrie, who I have built in a Guardian set with resilience, and this is for Demon Lord Clan Boss. I've wanted her for the longest time because I have a thing where I'm just not a fan of unkillable and or block damage in PvE instances. I just prefer to have, natural occurring teams, so to speak. Personal preference, not a mandate, not a prescription, but that's just how I like to play the game. And so I've always had a traditional Clan Boss team from the from the early days on all the way here into the end game, but I'd always wanted to have a super old school counterattack, big shield, Iron Brago style team, and I finally was able to pull that off when I pulled Valkyrie. So she is used every single day in my Demon Lord Clan Boss team. It is a 1/2 key Ultra Nightmare team. On most days it's a 1 key. On Magic Affinity, just because the team happens to have a lot of Spirit Affinity champions, they don't always get to 70 million. It could be like 65, 68, but I'm working on improving their awakening to combat that aspect, to have them do a little bit more damage in around the same amount of time, because they usually die like at turn 52, 53, just after the boss starts to block revive. But yeah, I have her built in a Guardian set because she of course has a ridiculous amount of defense. I think it's around over 7,000, yeah, so almost 7,400, and so she's just soaking up damage on behalf of some of the squishier people on that team, because I don't necessarily need a Clan Boss team that can last to 200 million damage, something like that. I want the worst affinity to be like 75 million damage. That way it's always a 1 key on most days, and that's basically the extent of to which I care. Number 9 on the list is going to be Tormund the Cold, last year's Titan event reward, and I do have him in an El Clasico stun set for the arena, and he definitely was a game changer. I don't use him as much just because Stone Skin has gotten more and more pervasive in the meta, but every once in a while, you throw him in against a super speedy team, a Lady Kimmy, Arbiter, Lysandra type composition, and you just let the freezes do their work. He's still a menace, and he's definitely picked against me a lot of the times, because obviously the speed meta is back. For those of you who play live arena at a fairly high level, you'll know that a lot of people go all out speed, and if you whip out a Tormund, they either have to ban him and you might get to keep someone else on your team, or they have to come up with some solution that they didn't otherwise plan for, because you just threw a Tormund into the mix and they were going all out speed. So the stun set, of course, the AoE on the A1, super powerful. He also has another AoE in his kit. I think it's on the A3, which is a provoke, but the stun set, of course, just does a lot of work, because you can get some stuns out there when he just happens to use his A1. And of course, he's used exclusively in the arena, but of course he can flex into PvE instances whenever he fits into the restrictions in like the Cursed City or something like that, or he just fits the bill for some sort of segment of the game. And if you can manage to pair him with an HP burn champion, he gets super broken with this kit and just goes the shotgun Tormund, so to speak, where he just spams his A1 constantly, and you can get even more stuns in this particular build. So I have run the old school stun set build on my Tormund the Cold. Number 8 is going to be Newt. I would be remiss if I left Newt off the list, and some of you might be surprised that he is so low, but personally I do like him as a champion, but using him everywhere, double Newt, triple Newt, to me that just makes the game extremely boring, and so I don't really have any goals about that. So I try to use him the least amount as possible, but I do use him in certain areas, and I do have him built in a very specific build for the Scarab King, and this is in a destroy set, because typically in Doom Tower I like to farm the untouchable set, and so I want a fast team. That's kind of my mantra when it comes to areas of the game. I like my teams to be as fast as possible, just because it's cool to try and optimize for speed. But I digress. Why do I like Newt? I think that's fairly obvious at this point. Of course, the Blessed Bash is super powerful. He's good in Hydra, good in Chimera, good in so many different areas. I don't use him in Hydra currently, but I do use him, like I mentioned, in Scarab King. I do use him in hard mode Fire Knight. Of course, he's one of the best, if not the best champion for utility as well as DPS for that fight. And then I do also run him currently as one of my DPSs in a Chimera Clan Boss as well. Number 7 is Wallmaster Otharion, who's just really not underrated, but I think he's kind of underappreciated just because Hydra is kind of transformed into more of a heavy DPS type composition, and these enemy max HP champions have kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit. But I love him, and he fixed the problem that I had with my Nightmare Hydra team, because for the longest time I was running to Hanorok basically by herself in terms of the block buff champions, and of course she can debuff spread, but she might not spread block buffs around, and so he plugged that gap in my capabilities by bringing enemy max HP, which is more damage, but also decrease attack and block buffs on an AoE, which is super powerful. So I have him built in perception, high resistance, high accuracy, so he's also a mischief tank, and that's why he has lightning cage as his blessing. In addition to Hydra, I do also run him in Chimera when he fits the affinities, so he's really powerful there. Same thing, high resistance, high accuracy, so he can place his debuffs while also not getting his stuff stolen by the base form, and getting his buff stolen by the Viper form as well. So super powerful champion. Very lucky to have him, and he's one of the few champions that I hit in terms of the 10x rates. I did actually pull him during one of those sessions, so pretty happy about that. Number 6 is everyone's favorite annoying little monkey, and that is Sun Wukong, a free champion, probably the first free champion on the list so far. That you can argue Newt was a fusion and Torment was a Titan event, but this was just free, no effort. He just got it into the game, and I do have him built as a Newt Kong in a Savage set with perception for a little bit of accuracy along the way. Super annoying, of course, in the arena, comes back to life, all that stuff. You guys know about Wukong, those of you who have him, and yeah, he's just very powerful. If he can come back to life at the perfect moment, he can just turn an entire fight, and that's probably happened to me, or definitely happened to me. It's probably happened to you as well, and you've probably also been the person to do that to someone else. So just a super powerful nuker. A lot of counterplay nowadays against him, but when he works, he definitely does absolute work and just can one-shot an entire enemy team. Number 5 is White Queen Ancora, and yeah, you might think, why is she so high on this list? But I will still die on this hill that I think White Queen Ancora is highly underrated, even when she is run without White King Narses. The thing I love about her the most is just her passive. You build her with high resistance, and she can just steal CC from your nukers. She can take the Siphi sleep, she can take the Kymar sleep, she can take the Odin stun, she can take the Armon stun, she can tank so many things. Even if she happens to not have enough resistance, she just takes it, protects your nuker, and then she can cleanse it off if you happen to have enough resistance, or cleanse off anything else. And it's just a really strong passive, and I use her so much with so many of my champions just to dodge a lot of those champions that I just listed out there. Even some of the newer ones, Queen of Hearts, True Fear, she just takes it. What's his name? Fabian, Lord Entertainer Fabian, same thing. She can take the fears on behalf of your nuker, so it's just super powerful champion. I do use the white couple a lot together, but a lot of the times I run them separately just because I want her to protect someone else on my team. So super powerful. I have her in a high resistance build. Ideally, I would have her in bolster, but free to play life, don't really have much bolster to spare, but she's in high resistance. You can see there around 680-ish resistance and about 278 on the speed. So pretty quick, high resistance build is what I have for her. And of course, she is used exclusively in the arena, but of course she can fit into some PvE instances here and there as needed. Number 4 is her lovely husband, that being White King Narses. Definitely my favorite HP based nuker in the game, and still to this day, I've said it so many times, but I am still shocked that they offered this guy as a guaranteed void legendary, and I had never been happier to be the shard hoarder than I am than that day when they announced that they were giving this guy up for 110 voids. And still, I think since then they've not offered anyone of his caliber up in any of these guaranteed void events, but I digress. So just super powerful arena nuker, and the perfect answer that we desperately needed to the Taurus and Marishka meta that was rampant for way too long back in the day. So yeah, I like him. HP based, void infinity, super strong nuker, really great into bolster, really great into Krisk and anyone who puts up shields. He funnily enough, he counters Ancora, and the block revive potential going against like a Siphi who puts up 3 buffs, a Gizmak who puts up 3 buffs. So many different champions. You put up too many buffs, he gets a turn, and you just take him out, and they're gone forever. So just super fun arena champion, of course. And as you might suspect, he's in lethal. He's one of my best arena champions. So ignore defense, a little bit of stone skin there, 1 piece for the extra HP to boost his damage. Number 3 is going to be Harima herself. It feels like a long time ago that I got her, but she's somehow still in the second set of 100 legendaries. But yeah, she is also an arena champion. As you might expect, she is my best defensive based nuker on my account. She is also in lethal, some of my best gear, but I paired that with a kill stroke, and yeah, her stats are absolutely insane. We'll take a quick peep here, but yeah, 6,800 on the defense and 352 on the crit damage. So it's just stacked to the nines with defense and crit damage. And yeah, what can I not say about Harima that's so good? She has one of the best arena passives in the game, just reducing the ignored defense effects by 50% across the board. So that mitigates basically every single person in Savage and everyone, Barons, anyone who ignores 100% defense. They can't do 100%. They can only do 50% maximum. She works in Ice Golem. I run her in that team so that my team will never ever die, because he can never ignore 100% of her defense no matter what happens in the fight. If we attack him, proc the retribution hit at the wrong time. And then of course she also has the part of her passive where she cannot weak hit on demon spawn, and demon spawn cannot critical hit her, which is so good. You don't have to worry about Mortu Macabres. The Peril does absolutely nothing. They're just normal hits. They can't crit. Duchess, she can take care of a Duchess even though she's weak affinity against her. Lord Chazar, he can never crit her, so he can never put one turn bombs on her. There's so many different demon spawn that she can take care of. A Hefrak is completely neutered. He can't crit her no matter what, even if he passive procs multiple times in a row. Doesn't matter if he's chilling in Stone Skin, doesn't matter. She can tank the hits, come around and kill him in his squishy nature. So yeah, love Harima. Definitely use her in PvP, but also like I said, and I use her in Ice Golem. I use her in PvE as well. Number 2 is going to be Mr. Broken himself, and that is of course Armanz the Magnificent. I didn't want to put him this high on the list, but then I would kind of be lying about how powerful he is in the meta and how powerful he is on my account. The #1 most banned champion in all of Live Arena, but I don't get to use him that much there because he gets banned most of the time, but in Tag Team Arena he definitely sees a lot of play, so I definitely get use out of him. And just the sheep ability, super good. The stun lock ability is terrible, but it is nonetheless useful when you're using it against your enemies. But yeah, everyone knows Armanz, and I do have him built in 4-piece supersonic with some perception and a little bit of reaction as well. I don't have the fastest speed gear, and so I have him just kind of built in the cut in style for an Armanz with temporal chains alongside the supersonic set. He's almost exclusively an arena champion, as you might guess, but I do also use him on my Doom Tower hard wave clearing team, just because again his lockout capabilities with the stuns are super powerful, super broken arguably. But yeah, I use him a little bit in PvE as well. Anywhere in the Cursed City where he can apply, he just kind of does the entire wave for you. Basically they're all controlled and all CC'd, so yeah, super powerful there. And that brings us to numero uno, the most impactful legendary from my last 100 summons, and that is, drumroll please, Siphi, the Lost Bride. I can't even say anything bad about her. One of my most wanted, I think my most wanted at the time, Void legendary, and I happened to get her from her progressive chance events. Super lucky. Definitely tried like 2 or 3 times prior to get her, and we finally got lucky on that one instance, and she's definitely been a game changer. She was kind of the second speed booster champion on my account, because I really only had Arbiter, like the really high speed, and I just didn't have anyone else that I can kind of sub in, because Arbiter would also always get banned when I couldn't pick Armanz, of course, in Live Arena. And so I was just kind of SOL, and I was always on the back foot in the sense of I could never have a backup speed champion. Like obviously I could put speed gear on someone else, but I wanted, you know, the Siphi to pair with the Rotos, to pair with the Harima, stuff like that, increased defense for Harima in this case, but also just having a champion that I could run in protection set, which is what she's built in, 8-piece protection at the moment. Ideally it'd be 9-piece, but the banner is going to be very hard to replace, because this is a very good banner. But of course 9-piece protection would be better, but in the meantime 8-piece does exactly what I needed to do, and she's quite fast. Not the fastest in the game. Again, I don't have the fastest gear, you know, in the game or anything like that. Free to play, it is the nature of it, but 328, so somewhat serviceable, and around 600 on the resistance. But yeah, absolute game changer. I use her so often, daily basis for sure. Again, she's paired with Harima a lot. Just a speed booster, protection set, protects her buffs, and she just does work. The revive is amazing, a lot of almost a full turn meter, and of course Siphi Rotos, super powerful combo. She can help me, she helps me counter a lot of other things that I couldn't counter. Block active skills was kind of a menace, so that's become a lot more pervasive because of all the mythicals in the game, and so a lot of people try to run Shuzens and Galathirs, of course, and people who can place block actives. Doesn't matter, is when they're paired together, she cleanses every debuff off of Rotos when he gets his turn, including block actives, and so he can just do whatever he needs to do in the fight. So So super powerful champion, super impactful. Obviously, I use her in the arena for the most part, but if she fits into some PvE requirement or area, then I use her for that as well. All right, so that will conclude the 200 legendary special, as well as my top 10 game-changing champions since the first 200. And here's to the next 100 in, I guess, 2 years from now. Who knows how long it's going to take? But yeah, it takes a long time to get a lot of legendaries, and I look forward to seeing how the statistics and metrics kind of change over time. If you did happen to find this type of video interesting, then feel free to hit that like button down below. It does really help out the channel. And if you're enjoying the content overall on the channel, then feel free to hit that subscribe button down below for more content just like this one in the far, far distant future. Thanks for watching and have a good one.